Facts.
Hello, and welcome to this, the Thursday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show, or as we like to call it around here, Friday Eve. Vanessa gave me this panic look. What are we calling it? No, it's Friday Eve. We're good. Because everything that's good in life these days has an Eve, is it not? Right? Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, All Hallows Eve. Well, we're Friday Eve around here because, it's been a long week, right? What a bizarre weather day yesterday, wasn't it? 17 degrees on my deck yesterday afternoon. Man, if we could keep these temperatures through the next couple of weeks, that'd be great. It'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Remembrance Day is on Monday, and I know many of you listening to the show this morning have spent a number of cold and windy and even snowy November 11th at cenotaphs across our province, either in or out of uniform. Now, I don't recall many of those cold mornings in November having double-digit temperatures. In fact, I can't think of one. At least my time in uniform, maybe outside of uniform, but not in. And I'll tell you, I can remember many days that the fingers were getting a little numb on those parades. So again, I'll use this opportunity to encourage you to take some time on Monday to get out to a cenotaph in your community. There's plenty of them around, and pay respect, because it is an important event, and it is an important day. And sometimes with all of the hustle and bustle of life these days, we forget, and we should never forget the sacrifices made by our service people in times of war and times of peace. So that's my message to you today. Don't forget, at noon today, we will welcome Nova Scotia leader Zach Churchill into the studio for a full hour. This is the third of the big three leaders that we are giving you an opportunity to hear from and to ask questions to. Mr. Churchill will be here to answer your questions, so I look forward to hearing from you today. That will happen at noon. The open hour goes tonight, or 11 o'clock today, not tonight. Maybe it'll repeat tonight, but we're going to do it live at 11 o'clock this morning. It's been one of those days. Lots to talk about, right? The aftermath of the U.S. election sending waves right across the planet. The provincial election campaign continues to roll along here. These are just some of the things that you may want to talk after the news at 11 o'clock this morning. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to your passion, because it certainly helps me get out of bed in the morning to know how passionate the listeners to the Todd Veinotte Show are and aren't afraid to share their opinions. So I look forward to that here on the program. You may have heard in the news today, a commercial lobster fishing group in Nova Scotia has gone to court seeking $10 million in damages against those it alleges are buying lobster illegally caught in St. Mary's Bay. Unified Fisheries Conservation Alliance filed notice in the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia Tuesday against Independent Fisheries Limited of Little Harbour and its president. The Alliance also suing the owners and operators of Fisher Direct Limited, Seawall Holdings Limited, both in Shag Harbour. The allegations, of course, not yet proven in court, and the defendants have either declined comment, at least to this point, or are not immediately available for comment to the program. But we are very pleased to welcome to the program Colin Sproul, who we've spoken to many times about this. Colin, how are you?
I'm well, Dan. Thanks for the chance to share our views today.
Sure, absolutely. So let's begin with the reason why. Why did you have to take this step and actually launch legal action against these companies?
Well, I think the reason why should outrage everybody in coastal communities and everybody in Nova Scotia. The reason is clear. The lack of action by the federal and provincial governments to stop this illegal and criminal activity. And I can't think of any better evidence for that than the fact that our investigators, in a very short period of time, were able to gather enough evidence against these people to move to court, yet the federal and provincial governments haven't been able to in years. I think it's great evidence of a lack of will and a lack of intent.
This has been going on for some time, Colin, right? I know we've talked about it many times, and I would imagine because of this next step that you've taken, that it's not getting any better on the waters and on the landings.
No, it's certainly not, Dan. It's getting worse year over year. We're starting to see its effects on the lobster resource and on the economy of these coastal communities. And we can't sit back anymore and keep waiting and begging for the government to take action against what is a civil and criminal conspiracy. And so we've been forced to move forward on our own.
And it's still obviously not a lot of movement on the government end of things. I know that you've been trying to meet with the DFO and with the provincial ministry. That's not getting anywhere, is it?
Well, we've seen a lot of new action by the provincial government, and we're grateful for that. And we would encourage the federal and provincial governments to share any evidence against these people that they may have with our legal team to further this case. We need to stop this activity right now and protect this resource for everybody that's involved in it. We need to recognize that this is not about FSC fishery rights for Indigenous people. This is about greed and it's about crime. And this problem is much more widespread than in St. Mary's Bay. St. Peter's Bay in Cape Breton is under attack. The resource there is being destroyed by the abuse of foods and social and ceremonial fishery rights by Indigenous harvesters in Cape Breton. We would call on the Indigenous leadership within the First Nations of Cape Breton to take action against members of their community who are clearly selling FSC fishery products. And we know that there is a connection between the illegal activity in Nova Scotia and the destruction of the lobster resource in St. Peter's Bay and Cape Breton, and we're coming for them next.
Colin, we've heard talk and tale of organized crime being involved in this, and even seeing people come up from the United States to fish lobster illegally in Canadian waters. Is that still happening?
Yes, and it's outrageous. We know that the Department of Fisheries and Oceans is knowingly allowing American lobster buyers to illegally take lobster from Canada. People who don't even have licenses to be exporting lobster from our country are selling it to buyers in the United States with total immunity from any type of action by the federal government.
We're also hearing stories that DFO enforcement personnel have refused work over unsafe working conditions. Is it really that bad on the water?
Yes, certainly it is. It's not just on the water. It's in the woods as well. This extends beyond the lobster fishery into the Elver fishery. They have been hit by vehicles, shot at, threatened in every way, had their families threatened. These ladies and gentlemen live in the communities that they police in the fishery, and they're subject to the same violence and threats that everybody else has been by this criminal conspiracy, and nobody is doing anything.
So would it I mean, if we had a magic wand, and I know this is crystal ball stuff, Colin, but if we could fix it tomorrow, what's the solution? Is it more enforcement officers? What's the answer to this?
The problem here is not about resources. The problem is about the will to act. And we need to see that will by the federal government. We need the minister to declare what is clearly illegal to be illegal, to stop the fishing in St. Mary's and St. Peter's Bay and elsewhere across the Maritimes, and to call everybody involved in this situation to the table and deal with this problem through dialogue. That's what Canadians expect, and it's also what Canadians support. We know this by national polling that we've been conducting for more than 4 years that shows a vast majority of Canadians support our position in the fisheries, and they do not support this lawlessness. They believe that the resource should be protected at all costs and that commercial fishing should only happen within season, and they believe that all participants to the fishery should be sitting down at the negotiating table with the minister and moving forward.
Tough to do that if the minister doesn't return your calls, though, right?
The minister has gone beyond not returning our calls. The minister is clearly not telling the truth to the media, to the standing committee, or to the coastal communities of the Maritimes. She's attempting to manage this fishery for political gain for herself and her government, and conservation and the sustainability of coastal communities be damned.
Colin, what's the next step in the lawsuit? I know it's been filed now. Are you awaiting a response? Is that what's next?
Certainly, we're awaiting a response from the other parties to the lawsuit. But I can tell you that this is not over. We know more people who are involved in the illegal purchase and sale of lobsters in Atlantic Canada. We're continuing to collect evidence. There will be more legal action. And I have a message to anybody who is involved in this. You're next. We will not stand by and watch the destruction of our communities and our children's future. We will take appropriate legal action, and we will see compensation for this industry from these people who clearly are consumed by greed.
And that was my next question, Colin. Obviously, when you're starting to involve lawyers and lawsuits and stuff, there's a significant price that's attached to that. How are your organization able to afford to do that?
We're able to afford to do it by collecting donations from our 4,500 members across Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island, and by the thoughtful donations of other people who are entirely dependent on a sustainable lobster fishery, like lobster buyers who would never engage in something like this, and all types of other businesses that are associated with it. We need to recognize that Nova Scotia's most important industry is the lobster industry. This is not just the most valuable fishery in Nova Scotia. The Atlantic lobster fishery is the most valuable fishery that's ever existed on the face of the earth. And the prosperity of all Nova Scotians is predicated on it. Whether you live in Yarmouth or Sydney or Halifax, the lobster fishery is incredibly important to the economy of Nova Scotia, and it deserves to be defended by the federal and provincial governments at all costs.
Colin, we know there's a provincial election campaign underway. Are you liking what you're hearing from the parties, or do you think that this issue's kind of getting a tilled under the other issues that are facing Nova Scotians?
I think there's no more important issue facing the Nova Scotia economy right now than the threats to the lobster industry. And I would call on all political parties to take meaningful action to end out-of-season lobster buying and selling. It's illegal, and it shouldn't be taking place, and it does not deserve a blind eye turned to it.
Colin, I appreciate your time, and please keep us in the loop as this moves through the system.
I'm really happy for the chance to share our views, Dan, and I'd just like to make one more point.
Sure.
That I'd call on all lobster fishing families to seize the power in your own hands and refuse to sell your lobsters this season to people who would buy out of season. The truth is they can't survive on their illegal actions alone, and that power is within us and as an industry, and I would call on all of us to move forward on that front.
Great point, Colin. Appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Colin Sproul, part of the group that's filed this lawsuit. It is unfortunate, to say the least, that fishers from all communities in that area are forced to do this because they're of a lack of enforcement on the water. And I understand that there's unsafe conditions, and I understand that the enforcement arm of this is, it's a dangerous situation. But that all being said, we have to get this under control. I mean, if Colin, and I have no reason to doubt him, is correct, this is going rampant. Absolutely rampant. And it's not just happening on the waters. It's happening in the forests. It's happening with people buying and selling illegal lobsters. It's a big, big problem. And I think that we need to focus some more attention on it. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world that grab our attention, but this is the biggest industry in Nova Scotia, period. Need to stop down and take a break. Todd Veinotte Show continues on the other side of it. We'll have a conversation with the Federation of Labour, Nova Scotia's Federation of Labour. President Danny Cavanaugh joining us to talk about his thoughts, that what he's seeing in the election campaign. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day. A reminder, at 12 o'clock today, well, just after the 12 o'clock news today, we will be welcoming the Nova Scotia Liberal leader, Zach Churchill, into the studio to answer your questions. So make sure you have your radio turned on and turned up, and you're able to listen to that. And I invite you to call and ask Zach a question. as we have done for the other two-party leaders in this campaign, and this will be the third in of the big three anyway. And I hope that you have some questions to ask the Liberal leader as the election campaign goes on. I got a release yesterday. It reads as this: as Nova Scotians head back to the polls, the president of the Nova Scotia Federation of Labour, Danny Cavanaugh, urging party leaders to prioritize the issues that matter the most to workers. Workers are tired of being left behind, said Cavanaugh. We need concrete commitments from parties to ensure meaningful change, beginning with commitments to move a living wage for all and dealing with child and family poverty. Very pleased to welcome to the program the aforementioned president of the Nova Scotia Federation of Labour, Danny Cavanaugh. Danny, how are you?
Good morning, Dan. Good. I'm great.
I guess let's start there. Is that your biggest ask of the three party leaders, is to take a look at a living wage for Nova Scotians?
Well, that's one thing, I guess, because we're in the midst of, an affordability crisis, but we're also looking for things like card check certification and streamlining things so, we have a better process for stronger workplace protections for workers, like strike vote legislation in this province. So right now, when strike votes happen, they need 50% plus one vote of the entire membership. And we're seeking to get that down to 50% plus one of those who participate in the vote kind of stuff. But issues about recruitment and retention, protecting public services, ending any privatization of public services, and in particular, an issue around non-disclosure agreements and ending those. That was, we had a few resolutions at our last convention on non-disclosure agreements. So those are a few of the things, and, anti-scab legislation, I guess, as well, along with the affordability crisis.
Danny, have you heard or have you liked what you've heard from the leaders now? I know that Zach Churchill released a platform plank on a hybrid work model. I guess let's start there. What's the Federation's take on having people work part-time at home and part-time at the office?
Well, we think that makes sense. I guess when you look at what's happening, in particular in the federal public sector, where they've asked people to come back to work in their offices. Houston has done that here in Nova Scotia, in particular with non-unionized workers at this point. But we think that people should have the option to be able to do hybrid work from home. It creates, some issues for people when everybody's trying to get, as an example, into the city and traffic congestion. And a lot of people contend that many of the meetings they do anyway continue to happen through Zoom and other means. So having those people with the ability to work from home, we think makes sense, from climate change perspective to all kinds of other reasons that make them more productive, where federally there was a study done that says workers are more productive when they can work from home.
Danny, you mentioned living wage. We know that the cost of living here, in particularly in Halifax, is well, I'll say it, through the roof. What kind of wage increase are you looking at? Are you looking at them adjusting the minimum wage and then everybody follows suit, or what? How does that look? How does that look like?
Well, we think the Premier's comments about raising the minimum wage are good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we have some concerns about where was the Premier last April when we were in kind of the midst of the affordability crisis, and he was nowhere to be seen. But we think that we should start and work at least to have a $20 minimum wage. As we need to hear plans from each of the leaders about where do they stand on that, and what would they do to improve the wages of the minimum wage workers in this province, and head towards a living wage so people can afford, to pay their rent and to pay their mortgages and to buy the necessities that they need to raise their family without being in poverty.
Danny, workers' compensation, obviously on the list of asks here from your organization. How how confident are you we'll see universal coverage in the next decade?
Well, I think we're headed towards that. It's going to take a bit more work. I think for the most part, there's a lot of people, a lot of sectors that agree with having universal coverage. I guess the sad part here in Nova Scotia is that, about 26% of workers are not covered by workers' compensation. And I'd be willing to bet that a lot of those people who work in different fields and sectors of the economy here in Nova Scotia who aren't covered don't even understand that they're not covered by workers' compensation. I'll give an example. So when we look at the agricultural sector here in Nova Scotia, who's exempt from WCB, and we consider that those that work in golf courses, as an example, are considered in the agricultural sector. And you can imagine, I don't know any scientific numbers about how many people are hurt on the job, mowing grass as an example in a golf course. But those seem to me to be the kind of sectors that should be covered, that there's a fair amount of farm accidents and other accidents in what gets looped into the agricultural sector. And those workers should be covered by, WCB, and we need to have universal coverage so everybody's on a level playing field. I mean, workers' compensation was really about, making sure that when you're injured at work, that you get the justice you deserve from that injury, and employers have to come up to the plate. And that was the agreement back, years ago when WCB was put in place here in the province. So it was a trade-off where workers could not sue their employer, but in turn that they would get the justice that they deserved through WCB.
You mentioned non-disclosure agreements. Danny, are you advocating that they be completely banned in Nova Scotia or in specific circumstances?
Well, we're advocating that the government needs to move and ban non-disclosure agreements in the province, and universities have moved there. Like I said, we've had a couple of resolutions at our convention, and we're pushing that non-disclosure agreements be banned, and that they often are geared towards silencing, in particular, workers, but others as well, through the process of a non-disclosure agreement. And we think people should be free to talk about some of the issues that they might be facing, in their workplaces or in their own family life and other circumstances where non-disclosure agreements are quite often used.
Danny, appreciate your time as always.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
That is Danny Cavanaugh, the president of the Nova Scotia Federation of Labour, as the election campaign continues to roll along. We're going to stop down, take a break for the news. Blake's going to update us on what's going on in the world. And on the other side of that, University Avenue, the encampment on that site, the deadline for it to be evacuated or closed or people moved on was the 1st of November. We'll get an update on how that's going from the city's housing guru, Max Chauvin, will be joining us after the break. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day as we roll along through another week. It's been a busy week, has it not? And a lot of things happening here that may have or may have not slipped under the radar because of some of the big events that were happening in the world. We saw Halifax City Council sworn in officially on Tuesday, right during the U.S. election vote. So I don't know if that slipped off of your radar, but that has happened. And also the deadline for the University Avenue Encampment has come and gone. That was all the way back on the 1st of November. To get an update on how things are going with that situation, very pleased to welcome into the show today from HRM, Max Chauvin. Max, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Sure, appreciate the time. Let's start there. How are things going on University Avenue? Are you working towards clearing that?
Oh, absolutely. I think people will probably remember at sort of the height of that encampment. We had over 30 people there. There's less than 10 now. So we continue to work with our partners at the province and service providers to sort of find options for those last folks that are still there.
Is there a particular reason why people are haven't left yet, or is it a variety of reasons?
It's a variety of reasons. I mean, for example, we have a couple of folks that we know that there are options for. They're just not quite ready yet. So you mentioned the November 1st deadline. We know of a couple of people who were moving at the end of the month. Places have to be then prepared for somebody new. So there are things like that are there. And then there's also a couple of folks who we're still working with, having those conversations about what do they need in terms of services and supports to successfully relocate from there into a better option. So those conversations continue.
You mentioned there was about 30 tents there before the deadline. There's only 10, so that means 20 tenters have left. Do we know, did they go to a different encampment? Did they go to a shelter? Do we know where their disposition is?
There's a variety of places that people chose to go. So staff supported by our colleagues at the province and our own staff went out, and this is work that's done one-on-one. It's what are your needs? Where do you need to be? Because for some folks, it's really important to be near family or community that they rely on for their support. Other folks have different kinds of support needs. So it's one-on-one, talking to people, figuring out what they need, and then it's matching those folks with options that are available. And there's a variety of things. You mentioned shelters. There's also temporary housing options and a variety of other services. And there are a couple of people who said, just indoors isn't going to work for me for a variety of reasons. And then it was about, okay, well, where do you want to relocate to? And we provide people help when they have those questions too. Like we'll provide somebody some storage options that is perhaps something they need. We'll help people move. We'll facilitate that introduction. If there's a space somewhere available, we'll make sure we introduce that person with the folks that run the space so that they can have a conversation, make sure it's a good fit. So there's a whole variety of things, but there isn't one option. It's based on what people need and what's available.
November 1st was the quote-unquote deadline for this, the first deadline, I guess, Max. Do you have a hard deadline for that median to be cleared, identifying the need to clear it because of safety concerns during the winter?
Well, and that's exactly sort of, I guess, if there's an end line that we have to get this done by, it's before the snow flies. So people can't stay there. We do have to find them options to relocate somewhere else. But right now the focus is on, for those that we've got some options for, we're just waiting for them to be ready. It's making sure that goes as quickly as possible. And for other folks, it's continuing those conversations. You can't stay here. And people, to the most part, who I've talked to, understand that. Like they've seen the big snow plows going down the road, doing that snow and ice control work. So they understand the issue. It's just about finding an opportunity that works for them to get them to be able to relocate from there into a place that's better, that's going to let them move forward in their life as well.
How confident are you that that median will be cleared before the snow flies?
Well, we'll have it clear. I'm 100% confident that we can do that. It's it's just working with those folks to find good options for people.
Should that fail, Max, are you ruling out removing people, having them removed?
I don't think it would come down to that. I think people understand the need to relocate, and ultimately, again, if there isn't an option for somebody, and they're telling us, look, I see all of those things, I've talked to the people who are running them, none of it works for me, then maybe it's a conversation about moving to another outdoor location. So there are options, and it's just working with people to find something that works for them.
What happens to that site, Max, once it's cleared? Are you going to, like we've seen with Victoria Park and with Grand Parade, are you going to fence that and remediate it, or what's the plan for that site?
The first thing that we'll do is do a comprehensive sort of walk through the site to find out what needs to be done. Preliminary look at that, I don't think we'll need to fence it long term to do a big remediation, but I think there will be some work that we're going to have to do on the site. But that plan will come once we have people relocated and can do a good and wholesome review of the site and what's there.
Are there enough spaces to accommodate the people that are moving, and or are we still looking perhaps at expanding the number of encampments that we have?
I certainly think that we can relocate folks from that site without adding more encampments. It's about working with the space, and I think there are some exciting options coming from our partners at the province who are doing some pretty exciting things with the recently opened tiny homes community, the pallet community or the shelter communities that are coming. So I think there's lots of resources coming, and so I think that's all good news, and not just for the folks that are at University Avenue, but I think as those new resources open and more people can move into them, you'll see people leaving other encampments as well for opportunities. So I think there's hope and there's good news coming as we continue down the road of the province being able to open these new resources.
When those new resources open, Max, will there be enough shelter space available to house all that are living outdoors in the encampments?
I think there'll be enough space. What it comes back to is, are all the wraparound services and those things there to support people? So again, it's a lot of these one-on-one conversations with folks that are sleeping rough, that are experiencing homelessness. What do you need? What supports do you need around you to be successful? So that's the focus, and then to match people up with the new resources.
Max, I know you're busy. I appreciate your time.
Anytime, Dan. Always happy to join you.
That is Max Chauvin, the city's director of homelessness and housing. As the deadline has passed, still 10 tent sites up on University Avenue. Max saying that he's confident that they will be able to relocate those sites, those 10 tent sites, to other areas, be it shelters, be it another location, before the snow flies. That was the genesis of the city saying that they had to close down that encampment on University Avenue. If you're not familiar with it, it's right by the Victoria General Hospital and some of the Dalhousie buildings there. It's a divided street. The encampment is on the median in between the two sort of road beds, and the concern is that once winter hits, that when we go to remove snow, that will create a hazardous situation. So the decision was made a few months ago to close this site down. Still tents there today, but Max Chauvin said he's confident that they will be relocated before the snow flies. Need to stop down and take another break? We'll be right back. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. Back in minutes.
Max.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Telephone number is 902-405-6000. And why that is important is that we have the open hour coming up, and it's right around the corner. In fact, it's going to happen right after the news at the top of the hour. There's lots to talk about. Imagine that there are still some reaction out there to the election of Donald Trump last night, or not last night, night before. And we took a lot of calls on it yesterday, and I look forward to hearing from you on that today. Obviously, lots of talk about the provincial election campaign. That continues to roll along here on the program. And we will bring Zach Churchill onto the show right after the open hour at noon. So if you have any questions for the Liberal leader of Nova Scotia, get those ready. That's all going to happen here in the next couple of hours. But first, it was a split last weekend, a loss to the rival Moncton Wildcats, and a win over Rouyn-Noranda. The Mooseheads are back in action this weekend at Scotiabank Centre. On Saturday night, the Herd host Baie-Comeau at Scotiabank Centre. And if you'd like to go and see them, here's your opportunity. We have two pairs, not just one, two pairs of tickets to Saturday night's game, Halifax against Baie-Comeau at Scotiabank Centre. Call now, 902-405-6000. Vanessa will take your call. And, Vanessa, what should we do today? Callers number 7 and 9. Callers number 7, caller number 9, a pair of tickets, two pairs of tickets to see the Halifax Mooseheads against Baie-Comeau Saturday night at Scotiabank Centre. Best of luck. And over 8,000 fans on the weekend at both games. It was outstanding. And if you haven't been to a Mooseheads game, I hope you win the tickets and hope we can send you there. But if you're not the successful caller through, I encourage you. If you have not been or haven't been for a number of years, it really is the whole place is just electric. It's great. Junior hockey is great hockey, but the fans are into it. It's loud. It's kind of fun, and I hope that you get a chance to go there. We certainly enjoy it. And if you are unable to go to the game on Saturday night at Scotiabank Centre, not to worry. Gareth McDonald will be here. The Mr. Lou pregame show will go at 6:30. The puck drops at 7. Gareth McDonald calling all the action right here live on 95.7 News Radio. I truly hope that you get a chance to cheer on the Herd. A young team, lots of growing pains, but a young team that I think is going to excite us for not just this year, but for a number of years to come. Came across an interesting stat this week. As you imagine, I go through just reams and reams and reams of news releases and data and stuff, and different companies send different things out. But I came across one that I hope will carry over into the open hour. Of course, the open hour is you can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. But I came across an interesting stat. Now it's not coming from a polling company, so to speak. It's coming from a private company. So if the data is maybe less robust than a scientific study, I get it. But I think it puts everything into perspective for us. Did you know that Nova Scotia as a whole is the 4th biggest coffee spending province in Canada? Which is kind of shocking to me. BC at top of the list. They are number one, which is also very interesting considering the population difference between BC and Ontario and Quebec. You'd think that just by volume. But Nova Scotia is number 4. Did you know that the average Nova Scotian spends $32.18 a month on coffee? That's the espresso Americanos, the double doubles, the iced lattes, all of that stuff. $32.18 a month. That's $386.16 a year. That's a lot of money, right? I wonder how much money you spend on coffee. Do you spend a lot of money on coffee? I know Vanessa spends much more money on coffee, takeout coffee, than I do. So I've been told that I maybe squeeze my coffee dollar a little tighter than most do. That's the nice way of saying that I'm cheap. I make coffee at home. I'm a old school, brew the coffee in the morning, put it in the thermos, bring it to work guy. Others around here in the radio station, in the newsroom, are coffee shop supporters, we'll say. It's pretty easy considering that there's literally a Tim Hortons in our parking lot. But more people, they spend more time buying their coffee from Tim Hortons or from Starbucks or from McDonald's or from wherever you get your coffee than I do. I'm a miser when it comes to that. I'm interested. It might be something you might want to talk about when we open up the telephone lines at after 11 o'clock in the open hour. I'm curious, how much coffee do you drink, and how much of it do you buy? Because $32.18 a month, to me, and I get its averages and such, but that kind of feels a little bit low, doesn't it? Hang on. Vanessa, who won the tickets? Put your headphones on. Yeah, there you go. People sometimes think that Vanessa's a figment of my imagination, but she's really there.
Yes,
See?
I am here.
She is here. Who won the tickets?
So Diana Lesbronsted and Misty Kamek.
Well, there you go.
Congratulations, guys.
Oh, wow. It's so much fun. If you haven't been, go. I admit it. But Vanessa, before you take your headphones off, I have a question. I just read some stats. I know you were busy on the phone. The coffee shop spending report has been released, and Nova Scotia is the fourth biggest coffee spending province in Canada. The average Nova Scotian spends $32.18 a month. That's $386.16 a year. I told the listeners, and it's well-known public knowledge, and I'm thrifty when it comes to my coffee. I brew it at home. I put it in a thermos. I bring it to work. I couldn't function without it, but I'm cheap when it comes to that. And I'll admit it. You, on the other hand, are more of a coffee shop connoisseur, we'll say.
Yes.
$32.18
a month.
A month seems low to me.
That does seem low, especially if you're getting it from like Starbucks or some other particular shops. But yeah, that does seem kind of low.
Because it's like, like that's how cheap I am. It's been a long time since I bought one. It's like what, $250, more than $250 for a large coffee now. I don't know.
I don't know. I usually buy a combo, so I end up getting a meal along with it. So
you're not helping me.
No, I'm not helping you at all.
But anyway, it's $2.50. Like even for simple math, it's $3 a cup, right? Is if you average, because I know Starbucks coffees are more expensive, and this study was looking at things like regular double doubles and black coffee, but also espressos, americanos, and lattes, and those can run $5 and $6 and some even more than that. So even if it's at $3 a cup at $32 a month, that's like 10 cups of coffee a month. That just doesn't,
that seems pretty low.
Seems kind of low.
Most people who are going out and getting their coffee, they're probably buying more than one a day. So.
Right. And I think that, and maybe our industry is not the right one to use as the benchmark, but I know that people here drink a lot of coffee.
We do drink a lot of coffee. I get a lot of coffee gifted to me when guests come in.
They do.
They do. So I usually don't spend that much because somebody else is getting it for me.
Your favorite coffee drink, Vanessa, because this was part of the study as well. What if all things were the same? What would you get if it was you were going to go to the coffee shop and you wanted to have something? What's Vanessa's go-to coffee?
Large double.
I think that's pretty standard across at least across Nova Scotia. It's kind of like our bloodstream is replaced with double in Nova Scotia. I can just go to Tim Hortons here and I can listen to people and it's like double. Make it a triple, and my God, make sure it's the biggest one I can get.
It's either that one or black. Those are the two easiest ones to order.
So there you go. You heard it from Vanessa. I'm curious of what you think. It could be part of the open hour. We're going to open up the telephone lines after the news. How much money do you spend a week on coffee, and what's your go-to? You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Back in minutes. Thanks.
Well, I tried to make it Sunday, but I got so damn depressed that I set my...
Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Alstrand along with you. Our telephone number is 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Lots to talk about out there. It's the open hour. You can chat about whatever it is, and I know a number of you still want to weigh in on the election result in the United States, and that's fantastic. But we kind of chatted about this before the break. An interesting survey, and I will again preface it by saying, easy for me to say, that it's maybe not the most scientific study in the world, but it certainly is an interesting bit of conversation. Something a little lighter than all of the heavy politics that we've been talking about as of late. Nova Scotia ranking in a national survey number 4 for the amount of money spent on coffee every year. It was just over $38 a week. Was it a week? Yeah, I'm going to make sure I get the numbers right. It was a month. $32.18 a month on coffee, and as you can imagine, a highly caffeinated newsroom over here said that just seems low, right? If you're buying 5 coffees a day and it's a couple bucks, $2.50 a coffee, that can add up pretty quick. Anyway, I'm curious as to what your spend is on coffee a week or a month, and what's your go-to, because I think that most are like Vanessa, and I think that most is a double-double. It just feels like that's a Canadian institution, is a double-double. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Let's begin this morning with Tim. Tim, how are you?
Doing pretty good, Dan. I don't drink any coffee, so I'm pulling down the average.
I could never survive, man. I don't know how you do it.
Listen, I just want to go on a quick rant here about the U.S. politics, and then I'm going to disconnect from U.S. politics altogether. But I think from my perspective, there's 4 kinds of Trump supporters. There's the weak-minded, those that
Tim,
over any fundamental...
Tim, your phone's breaking up.
Was it?
Yeah, your phone's breaking up. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, look, I put it into 4 for Trump supporters. I think there's those that are kind of weak-minded, those that are those that have put a political party over any fundamental morals or values, and those who actually believe in a leader like that. Regardless of the categories, I just have nothing to do with those types of people. I just can't understand how any woman could vote for Trump or how any person of color could vote for Trump. Even in his victory speech, he was surprised. Can you believe it? It's crazy. And I'm thinking inside his head, he's going, yes, all these crazy lies, the hatred, the racism, the sexism, the threats that I spewed, and I still won. These fools will, blindly follow me no matter what I do. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and wouldn't lose any voters. I think he said that before, but he's a known con artist who just conned about 73 million people on the global stage. He will work with Putin to decide, do you want all of Ukraine or just the pieces you haven't obliterated? He'll work with Benjamin Yahoo. He'll work with that North Korean minion, because these people he idolizes as they have absolute power. He's got Elon Muskrat going to run his propaganda X machine. He's got a witch doctor, RFK, heading healthcare. What could go wrong? But look, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So America, good night and good luck. We'll see you in 4 years. I just can't bear to watch. That's it.
Thanks, Tim. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Let's go to Keith. Keith, how are you?
Pretty good, Dan. How are you this morning?
I'm well.
Good. Just a couple quick things to touch on. First, the coffee thing.
Yep.
I was drinking about 5 cups of coffee a week, which is really not much. But I just decided about 15 years ago, I started thinking about it. And I said, you know what? I think it's starting to affect my sleep. And also I was thinking about the double cream I was putting in my coffee, and I started trying to weigh it out. Actually, I tried to mathematically figure it out, and it was just scary how much fat I was putting in my body from the cream.
Yep.
So I just decided, you know what? Cold turkey. I just stopped drinking coffee, and I haven't had a cup of coffee since. And I gave up iced cappuccinos about 7 years ago. And I loved iced cappuccinos.
You're a much stronger man than I.
Well, I don't know about that. I just said, what's probably not doing my body any good, having all this fat injected into it, which I could control.
Yeah.
So I did. I stopped. The other thing was just the Trump effect.
Sure.
I'll call it the Trump effect because it is a fact. I think that, and this is only, I'm not a political expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that if Trump carries through his plan to deport all the illegal immigrants or whatnot that are in the United States, I hope and pray that Ottawa is paying attention to where these people are going to go. And if it's necessary, to get on it right away if it comes to the border. Because if you get all these people that possibly are coming here, you don't know who they are at all. They want to get away from Donald Trump, so they're not going to go back down to Guatemala or Venezuela or whatnot. Yeah. They'll come up here, and if that happens, then we're going to have a crisis here on the border. And I think that the border agents are going to be busy. And I think that who's ever in power, I don't know if it's Poilievre, Trudeau, or whatnot, they have to jump on that right away and say, that's it. No, you're not getting in here. Because if you don't, I don't think it would be very beneficial for our country. And that's what I have to say about that.
Appreciate it, Keith.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. I just saw a headline, and again, probably a shame on Dan for just reading the headlines, but I just saw that Quebec is warning of that very instance, that there could be an influx of migrants between now and January, when Donald Trump will be officially sworn in as the president, and then in the days and the weeks and the months after that, as if he sticks to his promise, and that was what he ran his campaign on, sticking to promises, and begins his mass deportations, that could very well be a thing. And we already know that some would suggest, and have taken many calls on it here on this program, that there already is a crisis at the border with people wanting to migrate into Canada. And this could create an even stronger push to make that happen to avoid the deportation. So I will join Keith's call and ask the government to keep a pretty close eye on that, and have friends and so on and so forth, and former colleagues that work for Canada Border Services. And I will agree that if that is the case, they are certainly going to be busy here over the next, we'll say, a year or so. Need to stop and take another break. When we come back, the open hour continues. And I'm curious, what's your spend on coffee every week? 902-405-6000. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Alstrand along with you. Telephone number is 902-405-6000. The open hour continues. A chance to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Lots of people want to chat about the U.S. election. Others want to share their coffee addiction on the radio. Maybe this is an intervention or two. I just got an email from Trevor. It says, I brew my coffee, take it to work too. It's because in the late 90s I was spending $100 a month on coffee. That was nuts. And our previous caller was talking about the creams and the fat in the coffee. That was something that I'd realized a number of years ago, maybe more than 10. So I drink my coffee black. I don't even put sugar in it. It's full test. No cutting it down. Vanessa drinks double espressos just to be able to deal with me. 902-405-6000 is the number. Let's get back to the phones. Eric, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Dan. How are you today?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
Well, one coffee a day. That's what I do. I don't spend it. I make it at home.
Okay.
As far as the election goes, I watched it till 4:00 in the morning, and after the polls closed 2 hours later, I figured he was a shoo-in to win that election. And I blame it on Biden. Biden should have had enough balls to run against Trump. He didn't have to put in poor Harris. I mean, she went into the gunfight with no gun, where Trump had enough ammunition to sink a battleship. Also, they didn't go out to the rural areas. I mean, she was dependent upon the big cities, but she forgot about the little guys out in the rural areas. And also, we all know in preparations, you got to prepare a long time. Well, they only had about 3 or 4 months to prepare. Whether she was a vice president or whatever, I think she got a bum deal. And Trump scares me. I mean, some of the things that he's already said, what he's going to do, and they're tied now 1-1 in the running. They don't have to run against Trump no more because, if memory serves me right, I think they only serve 8 years. I don't know why they only serve 8 years, but they don't have to face Trump again, where Harris can face, or, well, God forbid, I don't think Biden will ever come back in again. But I have a thing in front of me that says never give up no matter what, and I put that towards Harris and her people and the United States people. Never give up no matter what, and God bless them all.
Thanks, Eric. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. It's interesting how we are looking at what the Democrats did wrong as we try to digest the results of that election. Not many would suggest what the Republicans did right. I think that the Democrats did a lot of things wrong. I think it started 2 years ago when Joe Biden said that he was going to run again. I think that started the momentum in the opposite direction, and it was never going to get stopped. That being said, I think that the Republicans know how to appease their base. And I was just looking at the popular vote numbers. And the numbers are down from the previous election. The last election, the Democrats managed to get 81 million votes to Trump's 74. This time around, the Democrats got 67 million to Trump's 71. Now, those numbers are obviously still being worked on, but it looks as if the numbers are down. And I think that everybody was talking about the Democrats' ground game, that they were going to be able to get out the vote with all of the celebrity endorsements and everything along those lines, and I just don't think it happened. I think that and I said this yesterday, and this is the last I'll say of it, that this was a demonstration of how much power the suburban and rural areas have in the United States. It's a massive voting bloc, and it propelled them to a pretty easy victory. 902-405-6000. Michael, how are you?
Not too bad, Dan. How's yourself?
I'm okay. I'm enjoying my coffee and enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, on the American. Oh, yeah. The quick comment on coffee. I used to do one cup a day, but I instantly purged. I could time it. I had a discussion with Tom Young. It's funny you brought it up. Tom said he had 8 a day. I said, well, you're well cleaned out. We ended the conversation there. But anyway, and on the American election, forgive them for they know not what they did. When you're dealing with ignorance, breeding ignorance, and an ill-informed electorate that haven't got a clue, they couldn't even answer questions when they were asked on television by the reporters. They couldn't even give a half-decent answer. When you got those evangelists with a chokehold through brainwashing, got people still believing in the boogeyman and Santa Claus, that's a hard cookie to crack.
What do you mean? Santa Claus isn't real?
No.
Oh, Michael, you're ruining my whole Christmas here.
That was a fairy tale to make me feel good growing up as a kid. Yeah, you saw more meal times than meals. Yeah. But anyway, Dan, I'll leave you with that.
Sure.
Ignorance breeds ignorance, and until the people, well, they'll realize the hard way, those people in the United States.
Thanks for the call, Michael. I appreciate it, sir.
Okay, buddy.
902-405-6000. You might have been able to convince me that they didn't know what they were doing for Trump 1.0. Right? Because that was the big sort of talk after Trump won the first time, was like, oh, I don't think they knew what they were doing. But they've done it twice now. So can we really say that? I think it's an interesting question. John, welcome to the program.
So can we really say that?
John, you're going to have to turn your radio down, sir.
I think it's an interesting question.
John, are you there?
John, welcome to the program. So can we really say that? John, you're going to have to turn your radio down, sir.
Good morning.
John, how are you? I was in a deja vu all over again there for a minute. How are you?
Good morning.
John, are you there? You're going to have to turn your radio down. Is your radio down?
My radio is down.
Got it. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I just want to say that I'll be glad when we're finished talking about the American election. Thank God it's over. And I'm tired of hearing about Harris and Trump, both of them.
You're going to hear about it for 4 years now.
That's right. And it's time that we let it lie. And now that the Americans have decided to have Trump as their leader, then we as Canadians, we should accept it now, because that's what it's going to be for 4 years, and leave it alone and let him. And the best thing to do with since he is the leader now, or the president, then the best thing to do is to help and support him in the good things that he might try to do in the next 4 years, not condemn him for what he's accused of. But if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but since he's now elected as president, all the things that are against him that they've charged him with, I think they're being wiped out now. Am I correct?
Well, the special prosecutor was meeting with justice officials yesterday. I'm going to say that the federal charges that were levied against him will be, at the bare minimum, will be stayed until after he's no longer president. But there's still that New York case that those 38 convictions or whatever the number is that he's been convicted of. That still has to be disposed of, and it's a state case. It's not a federal case, so he can't pardon himself on it.
Yeah, but I think they'll wipe that out as well. They're not. I mean, it would be a disgrace to charge their leader of their country with anything, even if he was guilty.
Well, nobody should be above the law, right? Like, that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, I feel that'll disappear as well.
All right.
But anyway, and as far as Churchill goes in Nova Scotia, he's a dead duck. As far as I'm concerned, if you vote for Liberals right now in this next election coming, you're wasting your vote, because he's going to win another, even a bigger majority of the government, which is good, because then he'll be able to do maybe the things that he wants to do. Other than that, I only have 5 cups of coffee a week, and I buy my coffee, I'm going to say it, from McDonald's, because they make very good coffee, and it's almost half the price of what Tim Hortons sell. So that's my beef for today.
All right, John, I appreciate it. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. I truly believe that those federal cases will probably be stayed. I think the special prosecutor, well, I know that he's going to get fired because the president will fire him when he's inaugurated. But all that being said, states have very strong rights in the United States, and those cases, that conviction in New York is untouchable by the federal government. So the experts that I heard and read last night and this morning suggesting that probably won't see any jail time for it when the sentencing is handed down. That being said, it's still hanging above the Trump presidency, is it not? Going to stop down, take another break. When we come back, the open hour continues on the other side of the news. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in a bit. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Alstrand along with you here on a Thursday morning, soon to be afternoon. Don't forget, coming up Right after the news at the top of the hour, an hour-long conversation with the leader of Nova Scotia's Liberal Party, Zach Churchill, will be in the studio, and we'll be here to take your questions. So if you have a question for the Liberal leader, make sure you tune in. Coming up right here on 95.7 News Radio and on the Todd Veinotte Show, coming up after the news at noon. The telephone lines are open. 902-405-6000 is the number. It is the open hour. It's your opportunity. Talk about whatever it is on your mind. Lots of you still want to chat about the result from the United States election. That is certainly on the table today. But I'm curious, that news, you just heard it in the news, the new survey that is out suggesting that Nova Scotians spend coffee the fourth biggest spending, I think is probably the best way to put that. The fourth biggest coffee spending province in the nation. I'm curious as to what your weekly spend is on coffee and what's the go-to? I'm a black. Straight up black. More power, as I used to call it. So welcome Pat to the program. Pat, how are you?
Not too bad. Your first caller, Tim, is having anxiety over Trump. One of your callers' take on it a few days ago was his brains are popping like popcorn. Well, I love Trump, and I think it's the greatest thing that ever happened. And Elon Musk is not Elon Rat. That guy's a bona fide genius. They're jealous of him. And that's my take on it. As far as coffee goes, I drink about $100. $100 worth a month.
Holy smokes, Pat. Is it store-bought, or are you making it home?
No, I buy it at the store.
Yeah. $100, eh? That's like $1,200 a year.
I love it.
Fair enough, Pat. Have a good one. 902-405-6000. It just astounds me that somebody can spend $100 a month on coffee. Maybe I'm out to lunch. Like I said, I'm cheap when it comes to coffee. I make my own. And that being said, how often is it that we have heard people say that they absolutely love a politician? Wild. 902-405-6000 is the number. Let us go to Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
Well, I've never drank a tea or a coffee in my whole life. Can't stand the stuff. Don't even like the smell of it. I'm thinking there's probably a typo. I'm thinking it's probably more like $32 a week.
No, it's. I just read the survey again. It's per month.
Yeah, that's a typo. It's got to be a week.
Yeah,
I've known so many people that just, like you were saying, 3-4 cups a day, easy. But anyway, you know what? I hate to disappoint you, but I saw it coming, and I knew Trump was going to win, and I can't believe the sour grapes and the comments, the insults that are being thrown around. The name calling is unbelievable. I was watching clips and things on people in the media. There was a black lady reporter, and she turned around and she blamed all the white females for the win down in the States. And it just, another guy got on there and he was going on that all the misogynists and the Nazis came out and stuff like that. Like, Donald ran before and he did a half decent job. Yeah, the guy's a nutcase when he's got no filter between the brain and the mouth, but you know what? He did okay, and it just amazes me, all the doomsday stuff about having him in there like he's going to start a World War III and blow up the whole place. I don't think it's as devastating as everybody goes on about, but you know what? I find there's a bleed from that over to Canada, and it's the same thing with the Liberals. I mean, our own Prime Minister come out and continuously calls people names, and I have no.
Well, I think the bar for name calling goes pretty low below Donald Trump, doesn't it? He calls everybody a name.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that's where. Well, you see it even in the House now, where they're all some of them are getting booted out for the day for saying certain words or names and things like that. So
Mike,
I think
Mike, let me ask you this question. You say that you've seen a lot of sour grapes. I have seen a lot of sour grapes, but I've also seen an awful lot of gloating going on.
About Donald winning?
Yeah. Did you listen to our last caller?
Oh yeah, he loves them.
Right?
but that's I mean, seriously, over the last 2 days though, it's been I'd say at least 75% negative and 25 positive. And maybe it's like the voters for Trump. They're just staying back and enjoying the win and being quiet.
Wasn't what I experienced on the open hour yesterday, I'll tell you that much. Mike, I'll appreciate the call.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
902-405-6000. An awful lot of gloating going on. Isn't it wild? It feels like this was for Canadians who have no real say in it, and I know, and we've talked about it, and I'm not going down the road of, it doesn't matter, because it does matter, and it is an important world event. But it felt like, and it still feels like this was a Montreal Canadiens Boston Bruins game, right? Or a playoff series. And it's like the gloating that happens after the Leafs lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's what it feels like to me. Both sides. To use the Leafs analogy, it's it's the coach, or we didn't have all, and then the other side's they'll never win. They'll always, it's terrible, and then we blame the referees, and wow, it's wild. It certainly is, and I think years from now, when people take a look back and we're on to the next whatever is in the future for politics in North America, people will look back at this and just go, wow. That's all I can say about it. Where are we here? Oh boy, Jess has been on hold for a long time. Jess, I appreciate you holding.
No problem. How you doing, Dan?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, originally it was coffee, but the longer I've sat here and listened, I've got a lot of things going through my head. But you know what? I spend about $66, I think, doing the math in my head now, probably a month, around there.
Okay.
My girlfriend about the same. I'm a 2-cream guy, and she's a seasonal coffee drinker. So in the summer she drinks iced coffee, and in the winter...
Oh, okay. Now I was like seasonal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seasonal, yeah. So in the summer she drinks iced coffee, in the winter she drinks regular coffee. So yeah, it gets more expensive in the summer. But I mean, there's a lot to touch on, and I'm not going to take up a whole bunch of time. The one thing that I did want to point out, or maybe say, that is maybe just a personal opinion, but I do feel pretty strongly about it, is I don't know if there's much of a difference in the level of racism or misogyny or whatever you want to call it in voting for Trump as there is in white people dictating who people of color should vote for, or men dictating who women should vote. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's pretty even keel there, I would say, personally. And that's what I see a lot of on Twitter and stuff is in my opinion, it is people like me who maybe are criminally or terminally online, and they feel like as a white person they have a right to maybe dictate who they feel the Latino population should be voting for, who they feel the African American population should be voting for. But I mean, if those populations are voting for an individual, then I think that's really the most telling thing, right? And that's kind of all I wanted to say.
Jess, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. He mentioned social media, and I think it'll be an interesting study in social media moving forward, because we know that a lot of this discussion happens in that Twitter sphere. And let's not forget who owns Twitter and could have, probably will have, a rather large role in the next Trump administration. So take that as you will. Will Twitter continue to be a place for, as Elon Musk calls it, for free speech? Or will it become an arm of the government, so to speak? Just saying. I mean, the possibility's there, right? And what happens if he's in? What happens to Elon Musk? Maybe somebody out there who's smarter with me when it comes to law can tell me the answer to this. But if Elon Musk is a cabinet minister, if he gets put into do they call them ministers? They call them secretaries in the U.S. If he gets put into Trump's cabinet, then what happens to his companies? Does he have to put them into a blind trust? Would Elon Musk want to do that? Interesting, isn't it? Going to stop down, take another break. When we come back to the phones. You're listening to The Open Hour on the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Alstrand, back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. My apologies to each and every one of you that is on the line. We got all wrapped up in the fun and frivolity of the Open Hour, and forgot that we are going to debut a bit of a new segment here today. Vanessa obviously keeping me in line, and as usual, sometimes it takes a bigger stick to get Dan to think things. But anyway, I will apologize to all of you that are on the line. We'll open up the telephone lines again tomorrow for the Open Hour for the Friday Free-for-All, and we can continue the conversation. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit here, and we do this from time to time on the Todd Veinotte Show. We love local business, and local business is the backbone of what we do in our economy. Without local business, we just wouldn't exist. It'd be a terrible place. And on the odd occasion, we have somebody that takes a few minutes out of their extremely busy day, because anybody that's an entrepreneur or a small business owner will tell you that they are busy people. But we're very pleased to welcome into the program today for 5 minutes with Todd/Dan. Todd's not here yet. Well, I'll take over. From Force Radon Solutions. The gentleman's name is Ryan Groombridge, and Ryan is in the studio today. How are you, sir?
Great, Dan. It's great to spread the word about radon awareness to the community.
Tell me a little bit first about what radon is, because we hear the stories about radon gas, and some people get concerned about it. What is it, and how does it get into my house?
Well, radon gas is a radioactive gas that comes from uranium under your ground. So I find that, in our area, I've been getting higher readings of radon in people's basements, in the older homes, and it's from cracks in your foundation. And right now is your best time to test, because it's winter season, heating season, so the radon gas cannot penetrate the frozen ground. So over the next few months, your house creates like a stack effect from turning your dryer on, heating your house. So the gas cannot come up to the ground. It comes up through your basement. Any orifice, any crack, anywhere in your house that has any entry to the ground, that's where the radon gas comes in.
And this gas is undetectable, right? It's odorless. You can't see it.
It's odorless. You can't taste it. You can't see it. But if you ever go to my website on Facebook, Force Radon, or my Facebook or my Gmail account, Force Radon Solutions, you'll see that I have so many. I just posted if you want to buy a digital manometer or digital reader, you can go on there and see what's certified. Because I just had a customer recently bought one off Amazon. It wasn't certified, gave her false readings, and it read up to like 12,000 or 1,200 becquerels, which is way above the rate of 200. And when I tested, it was way below that at like 150.
So when it comes to something like this that is as dangerous as radon gas is, super important to have the right tools.
Oh, it is. And I find, too, like I've run into a lot of times that, it's good to somebody that's certified as well. Certified in measurements, certified in mitigation. I find that I've been seeing reports that I get from some home inspectors that their machines have been calibrated in 2 or 3 years. I just did a job a little while ago where I went in the house. The home inspector said that the house was above the 200 becquerels. And on closing, they wanted a system put in the house. So the buyer or the seller had to put a system in the house. When I get there, ran my test, it was 30 with my certified radon eye. So I put a system in the house anyway, condition of sale. But just to show you, if you buy or purchase a house, get someone certified and it has a certified test that's been calibrated yearly.
How did you get into this? This is kind of a niche market, is it not?
Yeah, it's true. But I've been dealing ever since I was very young. I was a member of a union. I've been insulators unions in Ontario. I've worked across Canada. Recently, my last job was working on the oil fields, running projects in the shutdowns. And we're trained to deal with asbestos, mold. I've done massive mitigations in mold and asbestos in plants. And to me, it's almost the same. But the asbestos, you can't see it, you can't taste it, but the latency period is could be 20 years, but it will affect you. And my personal experience was, I didn't know anything about radon years ago, and my wife was really sick, and she was shortness of breath, losing hair, a lot of coughing. And I was in Ontario, and actually a friend of mine owns Canada Radon, and he told me to bring this Radon eye home, and I tested my house, and it was over 1,500. So I'm passionate about getting radon out of people's houses. I want everyone to live safe, and it's not a myth. It's actually reality that radon gas will harm you in high levels.
What sets you apart from? I would imagine there are others that are doing this kind of testing. Is it that passion that you have to get people's houses clean?
Yes, it's the passion, and it's because I lived it too. And I find that all my training through the union, like all my life, you're trained on. I'm certified in asbestos and mold and infection control in buildings. I've been doing that for over 36 years, so I know the footprint. I know how bad something can be, and I know what preventative measures to take, even for my employees that work in that environment. We filed strict stringent JSAs, like job site analysis. We identify, we vent, we do the job. Like, we care about what we do.
What's the process? How does it work? Is it a long process? And when you find it, what's the next step?
Well, what I suggest to everybody, actually, right now, if you're elderly or if you make less than $80,000 a year, you can actually go and get a mitigation grant from NS Lung Association. And I suggest everybody to go on and look on NS Lung Association and check out their mitigation grants. You can qualify. If you qualify for the test, you'll get it for free. And if you qualify for the test, you'll get the free mitigation as well. You get up to $2,500 for mitigation by a certified mitigator. To check for radon, it's, what you do is you call me or you call another person that's certified. If you go to CNRPP's website, you can see that there's a list of certified mitigators and certified measurements people. Call them up. They'll be happy to talk to you, and they're happy to go through the process to see what levels your house is. Or I suggest buying that radon eye. It's very, very it's certified. It tells you the reading, long-term averages. It's a really good machine.
Is it plug and play? Just plug it in
the
wall?
It's plug and play, and it goes off your Wi-Fi. You can watch it play, And when I do my systems, too, I use the best quality. Like, I have the Fantech fans that are really quiet. They're a great warranty. I use all the best equipment to put in your house.
What's the solution should somebody have to mitigate? Is it to patch the holes or the cracks or the orifices in the walls, or is there another solution to getting it out?
I do depressurize the slab. So I actually go under the slab and I check when I enter your house. I do tests in the corner of your house to see what your pressure is coming up from underneath your slab. Then I have a machine that I hook up in the corner and I run a fan that's digitalized and tells me what CFMU I need to meet the lowest point of the house. Then there's mathematical equations I use to calculate the coldest day in winter in Nova Scotia to make sure that I can cover that basis with radon coming up to your house, because that's when radon's at its worst. It starts now, and by dead winter, it'll be at its worst because there's no escape. It can't meet anywhere. It comes up through every orifice, and it's like Dan said, you can't see it, taste it, or smell it. It's there.
How long does it take you to do a test? Is it a day? Is it an hour? How long does that take?
Well, for real estate transactions, it should be 96 hours. For I usually do a 72 hour just to people to let them know where they're at. There's a 90-day test from a lung association that I highly recommend. That test will tell you everything that you need to know about your house, because a 4-day window or a 3-day window is not that huge. A 90-day window is what you want. That gives you the inaccurate, like you're cold, you're hot, your dryer's on, like everything that causes pressure coming through your slab. The 90-day is what you want.
Is it expensive?
No, you go to a lung association, they're like $50 for a 90-day test, and you mail it back yourself, and you'll find out. And even if you do a testing, like if I come test your house, you're looking at like $300 to test a house for 72 hours. So it's not that bad. And I throw in a long-term test with that as well. It's good to know. It's good to know your numbers. Like I'm here more like trying to really pump the grant, because I like to get the elderly and people that make under $80,000 to actually go on there, because you get a free system. Like you need two certified people to do quotes, then you submit them, and the system is in your house. You don't have to put nothing out of your pocket.
How prevalent is it? How often do you come across high levels of radon in Nova Scotia and Halifax?
Well, Dan, actually this year has been pretty crazy, because it happens in all the new construction, new roads going in, all the dynamite, all the blasting. It opens new fissures, and I'm finding when I've tested 10 houses, I bet you 8 of them have higher, like over 200 becquerels.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, especially when I get into different areas where they're putting the roads in. it's unbelievable the amount of radon that compared to last year.
All right, Ryan, you've obviously going to raise some questions here for people. How's the best way for them to get in touch with you and get the process started?
Well, you know what? They can either email me at ryan@forceradon.ca, or they can go to my website, forceradon.ca, or reach me on Google. I'm on Google, I'm on Facebook, and just reach out and I'll be there for you.
Ryan, appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, Dan.
That's Ryan Groombridge from Force Radon Solutions. Wow, that's I didn't think there'd be that much. Anyway, radon, you can't taste it, you can't see it, you can't smell it, and it's dangerous. So check it out. And if you qualify for that grant, then even better, right? Need to stop down, take another break. When we come back, an hour-long conversation with the leader of Nova Scotia's Liberal Party, Zach Churchill's here, and he'll be your guest. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes.
Facts.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. As part of our ongoing series of giving you all access to the leaders of the three big parties as we continue the grind, can I call it, of the election campaign. We've had a conversation with PC leader Tim Houston. We had a conversation with the NDP leader, I'll get it right eventually, Claudia Chender. And today we'll finish the trifecta, so to speak, when we welcome our next guest into the studio, and he's sitting here and he's ready to go, and that is Nova Scotia's Liberal leader, Zach Churchill. Zach, welcome to the studio.
Dan, thanks so much for having me on.
I guess the first question, let's lay the ground rules first, because we want to keep the rules the same for everybody, and I know there was some confusion as of late, so here's what I want to happen today. The telephone lines are open. 902-405-6000 is the number. If you have a question for Zach Churchill on his platform, his policy, whatever it is, 902-405-6000. I will ask you all to keep your questions to one and keep them short, because as you well know, the phones get busy when we do these segments, and I'd like to get to as many callers as we can. Mr. Churchill, I'll also ask you, I know the issues are complex. I will also ask that you try to keep your answers as short as we can so that we can turn over as many callers as we can and move forward. So that's the ground rules. Again, there are a few open lines if you want to get in, 902-405-6000. But because I sit in the big chair, I get to ask the first question. Mr. Churchill, last week, or was it this week? Earlier this week, you announced part of your plan and your platform for commuters. And one of the key planks in that promise on your platform is a new 6-lane bridge at the McKay. First question is, how much is that going to cost Nova Scotians? And is it cost prohibitive? Because I know that number is huge.
Well, first of all, people need to understand that the McKay Bridge needs to be replaced in the next 10 years, according to publicly available engineering documents. So this just isn't a thing that we want to do. This is a necessity, and we've got a real opportunity to start that work now and make sure that that bridge has 6 lanes, has active transportation lanes, so we can do better to deal with the commuter traffic in Halifax, which is driving everybody crazy, and we're one of the most congested cities now in the country. So the cost of that is $750 million.
To build the bridge? The whole bridge? That's lower than I expected.
That's according to the engineers I've talked to on this. And there's options to pay for that. I mean, there's a lot of federal money available for large infrastructure projects like this. We're hoping we can get half of the money for this through the federal government, and then either look at cost sharing with the municipality and the province, or a similar model to we have right now with the bond and tolls. But preferably, I think people would rather have the infrastructure funded publicly.
$750 million. Any idea how long it would take to build a bridge like that?
I mean, it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And that's why we need to start now, so the McKay Bridge can stay operational while you build this thing next to it. But there's other things we have to do for congestion too. I mean, one of the big reasons we have the congestion that we have the housing crisis that we have, the lack of vacancy, that our hospitals and our schools are overrun, is because we do have a premier that has been driving to double our population and hitting those targets every single year at a time when we've reached our infrastructure capacity, when we reach our housing capacity, and certainly when our hospitals and schools are already under a lot of population pressure.
So then, how do you limit immigration and cross provincial migration?
Well, you can't limit cross provincial migration. The only thing the province has control over is the provincial nominations. So right now, the premier is nominating over twice as many people to come into the province as his own Department of Immigration is saying is sustainable. So it's about bringing our provincial nominations in line with what the actual experts on immigration say we can handle, and focusing our immigration targets on the labor skills that we need in healthcare, skilled trades, education, childcare, agriculture. There's a whole list of folks that we need, and we just have to be smarter about how we're doubling our population. So Tim Houston's goal to, again, which he's implementing successfully, to double our population is creating a lot of strain on our housing market, on our roads, in our schools, and in our hospitals, and driving inflationary costs up a lot, particularly in the rental and housing market.
902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000. Let's head to the phone lines, and we welcome Bill to the show. Bill, how are you?
Not too bad, sir. This is not a question. This is an answer for Mr. Churchill regarding the bridge. Now, I talked to the odd couple of business people, and we kick things apart back and forth. I come up with an idea after listening what he was saying, and a friend of mine, Donnie Galand, across the harbor there, come up with the same idea. So here's what the answer for this. First of all, I feel we can't afford a new bridge. That's number one. But here is your answer. A tunnel at the Narrows section where you got pretty well all your road work already in, just offshoot it to it. Short distance, a tunnel, Mr. Churchill, is the answer.
Thanks, Bill. A tunnel? Have you thought about a tunnel, or is it something?
Yes, and people have mentioned that. I've been able to talk to bridge engineers, so I mean, my information has primarily come from them, and what the Bridge Commission is saying is needed. But the big thing is we can't lose that connection across the harbor. Imagine what the congestion issues are going to be like if we only have the McDonald Bridge. People know how bad congestion is now, and this is certainly something that we need to have in order to deal with it. But again, we also have to manage our population growth better. We can't have a premier that is nominating more people to come here than his own Department of Immigration says we can handle until we build all the infrastructure that we need to grow. And I mean, that's particularly the case in housing, but it's also the case with our road network, with cell coverage, cell towers to accommodate the growth, as well as hospitals and education infrastructure.
PC Leader Houston says that he will remove the tolls on the current set of bridges. Your thoughts on taking the tolls off?
So that is an incredible cost. That's going to be, I mean, we costed that up at $70 million a year, at least. Plus the maintenance is now going to come on to the taxpayers of the province. And he wants to do that at a time when one of the bridges is going to need to be replaced. So I don't think it's wise to take money out of our road budgets, out of our public works budgets, that is for infrastructure and capital, and where we need more investment to twin our highways, to build more lanes, and to replace the McKay here in Halifax. I don't think it's wise to take money out of our public works and road budgets to pay for tolls. I do not think that's a wise decision. We have enough potholes already and the worst roads in the country, according to a recent report. So we can't take money from that. It's going to make our roads worse.
902-405-6000 is the number. We welcome Rafe to the show. Rafe, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Just had a question about what Mr. Churchill's solution is or ideas are for our healthcare situation with, people not having doctors and not enough nurses, and how are you going to try and tackle that situation?
Thanks, Rafe.
That's a very good question. One of the biggest issues right now is, since Tim Houston's been elected, we have twice as many people without a family doctor. That is a big problem that is adding pressure onto our emergency departments, in our hospitals, in wait times for specialists and MRIs, but it's also bad for people's health. So we have to get back to the family practice model, getting doctors back into family medicine and attaching patients to family doctors. I think that is fundamental to our healthcare system. Our plan is to build and expand 40 collaborative care clinics, which is a model that a lot of doctors want to practice in. There's examples in the province where doctors working in these clinics are taking on more patients. They're coming back to family practice. It's a better work-life balance for them, and they can take on more patients. So if we expand our collaborative care practices and build new ones, starting in the areas that have the largest unattachment to family doctors, we can make a real dent in that list and, more importantly, help people improve their health management and health outcomes.
902-405-6000 is the telephone number. We need to take our first break. Zach Churchill, the leader of Nova Scotia's Liberal Party, here for the next hour. If you have a question, this is your opportunity. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. He is Zach Churchill, and he's here for the next 45 minutes or so to answer your questions. Few lines are open. 902-405-6000 is the number. We'll take an email question now. This one coming to us from Gil. It says, good morning. This was sent earlier, obviously. I would like to pose a question to Mr. Churchill if I could. If the Liberal Party is elected, would he look at reinstating the annual cost of living review for the provincial pension plan and doing away with the current 5-year cost of living review? Example, the last 5 years we as pensioners on the provincial plan have gotten zero cost of living. In my opinion, 5 years is way too long for a review. Your thoughts on the provincial pension plan?
Certainly that's an issue. I mean, we all know fixed income earners, seniors that are on pensions are struggling right now. Cost of living, inflation is shot through the roof, and pension plans aren't keeping up with that. What we've committed, so I think that we do have to look at that. What we have committed to do so far on the affordability side. And again, we have our full platform available. We're the only party that's released our full platform. You can check it out by Googling Nova Scotia Liberals. We are really focused on tax reforms that'll put $3,000 back into the pockets of Nova Scotians, seniors, working families, young people alike. We're going to do that by reducing income taxes, particularly for those making $75,000 or less, by taking 2 percentage points off the HST and taking HST off the rest of groceries that people are still paying sales tax on. Those tax changes alone will save people $3,000 a year. That's real money. That's, the winter vacation for a working family or summer vacation. That's hockey equipment and hockey season or ballet. That's money for school supplies. So we are really focused on the affordability side of things, tackling our high taxes. I don't think we should be the highest tax province anymore. People have had the highest cost of living increases in Nova Scotia, highest increases to rent, and we're still paying the highest taxes. And we have enough revenue now where we don't have to do that.
902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. We welcome Gary to the program. Gary, how are you?
Not bad. I'd like to ask Churchill, when you want to put your application for the Metro Housing, seniors, and they got to wait so long to get in there, and you do find out they lie to your face. Why you guys get in their elections? You have the PCs, Liberals, or NDP. They don't do help nobody as anybody. Why? You guys don't help people.
Gary, appreciate the call. Social housing obviously is an issue, and we know we're in a housing crunch. Your thoughts on the way that we handle public housing in Nova Scotia?
Well, and to Gary's point, I mean, it is frustrating when you've got politicians that make promises and don't follow them. I don't want to do that. Our platform is a contract with Nova Scotians. If you vote for this, you are going to get this delivered for you. These are all costed up. They're reasonable ideas that will help with affordability, housing, and healthcare. Gary, you'll see in our platform we want to invest in the not-for-profit sector when it comes to housing options for that deeply affordable option. I don't think public housing is the answer for this. We've got not-for-profits in Nova Scotia who do a much better job managing their housing units, keeping them up, and building them for a more affordable price than the government has been able to do over the years. So I think we need to invest in those that are being successful, whether it's Metro Housing, Add Some House, all these organizations that have done really well. And we plan on giving them more money to help with those deeply affordable housing developments that will be there for people. We also want to invest in co-op housing, which is a really helpful option for people that currently is not widely available across the province.
Do we lean too much on not-for-profits with this file? And the reason why I ask that is I've asked this question of a lot of people, and everybody kind of says the same thing. We have to, we'll rely on not-for-profits to build these and to manage these things. Is that the best way to do it, or you may have already answered this, but or would it be better served by a government department?
They do a better job than government. I mean, we audited our public housing stock when we were in government. There was over 550 units that weren't livable, so weren't on the market. They cost twice as when the government buildings cost twice as much to build and usually take longer. The not-for-profit sector needs more capacity. They need more capital, but they do have a proven track record of building deeply affordable units for the folks that need them and managing them better than the government. So I think it's a better option, and they have a better model too, where it's more integrated housing and less segregated housing, to be honest. So I think we need to invest in them, but it's about having the wide range of housing options. We think we can build 80,000 units over the next number of years. On the market side by reducing costly red tape, so developers can build more affordably, but also safely and in the right areas. But also by investing in the parts of housing that the private sector isn't going to do, and that's the deeply affordable side and the supportive housing for intimate partners who are fleeing violence and women who are in difficult situations.
Zach, who builds them? And the reason why I asked that is we've talked about the need for housing and needing for housing starts and that kind of thing. I take calls from contractors, and I take calls from people that are on the ground building these things, and they're saying there's just not enough capacity in the system currently to build these houses. So how do we build 80,000 homes if there's nobody to build them?
You make it more affordable to build by getting rid of costly, unnecessary red tape. So you do that by bringing in provincial standards. But we also have to deal with the labor shortage. We have a plan that is going to hopefully get more women into the skilled trades. If you look at the amount of our skilled trades workers, less than 9% are women. So we're leaving half of our population, our working population here in Nova Scotia at home, out of the skilled trades. So we want to target our funding and options for more women in the skilled trades, because we think we can get more people here that are already living in Nova Scotia into that workforce. But also when it comes to nominating people who are moving here, we also have to focus on skilled trades and construction workers. And that's not happening right now under the Houston government. The bulk of the folks that are coming in are not from that sector or the healthcare sector. So it's about balancing how many people are getting into the sector from here and making sure that when we're targeting immigration through provincial nominations, that it's the right workers to fill the gaps here.
902-405-6000 is the telephone number. We welcome Bradley to the program. Bradley, your question for Mr. Churchill, please.
Hi. I've listened to this for the last 20 minutes or so. Everything that you're talking about sounds like you're investing. Where's all this money coming from? It sounds like Trudeau and the federal government, we're going to spend this, but we have no plan of how we're actually coming up with this money.
Thanks, Bradley.
Bradley, that's a really important question. So, if you look at the provincial Liberal Party, fiscally, we're actually more conservative than the PCs, and certainly the monetary policy and fiscal policy of Tim Houston, I would argue, is a lot more aligned with the Prime Minister's than my own. Our platform is fully costed. There has been $3.5 billion more in revenue brought into the province over the last 3 years. Tim Houston has spent every single year over $1 billion above and beyond his legislated budget. We can afford these changes and investments with giving people $3,000 back in taxes, with investments in infrastructure, healthcare, and housing, if we just stick to our budget. So if the premier, the current premier, Mr. Houston, had stuck to his budget, these are initiatives that we could have started 3 years ago, because there is enough revenue in the province. Now, we can't take that revenue for granted. So you will see in our platform also initiatives to keep our economics going in the right direction, supporting our export sector, fisheries, softwood lumber, as well as looking at the other resource sectors we have, growing our agriculture sector, and as well as looking at the vast amount of critical minerals that we have in the province that are important to tackle climate change in particular, and go after those economic opportunities. And we can build more wealth in this province, more revenue for the provincial government without going into people's pocketbooks and charging them more taxes.
Doesn't happen overnight, though, right? And with a 2% reduction in taxes, and some of the other plans that you have released in that platform, including making transit free and the bridge and those kind of things, will we not be in a financial crush? I think I heard you say when you released your platform that you're going to be in deficit for the first 2 years. Nova Scotians don't like being in deficit.
Nova Scotians don't like paying the highest taxes in the province, in the country, or not having access to the healthcare they need, or driving on roads that aren't maintained. And the fact is our platform is fully costed. It's based on conservative estimations on revenue, and reasonable estimations on what the expenses are going to be. So yeah, we are willing to run deficits in the short term, but we will be back to balance at the end of a 4-year mandate, which I think is really important. So yeah, we want to invest in the things that matter. Infrastructure, affordability, housing, and healthcare, but we also want to make life more affordable for people here. And the fact is, if you look at the numbers, we can do that. You look at the hundreds of millions of dollars that Tim Houston has thrown at the wall on healthcare that hasn't changed the fundamentals of our system. If you look at the Auditor General reports, she's pointing out hundreds of millions of dollars in untendered contracts where there wasn't even a demonstrated need for this spending. So this is about spending more smartly, more responsibly, and in areas like public transport, housing, infrastructure, health that can actually make a big difference in the lives of people here and make life affordable.
Need to stop down and take another break. Zach will be here for another 30 minutes after the news. So if you have a question, the lines, there's a few lines open. 902-405-6000 is the number. We are back right after the news. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Olstrand here with you. Zach Churchill, the Liberal leader, is in the house and is going to be here for the next 30 minutes to answer your questions if you have a question to ask. Mr. Churchill, here is your opportunity. 902-405-6000 is the number. 902-405-6000. Let's begin with Philip. Philip, how are you?
Just fine, thank you.
Your question, please.
Yes, I'm just wondering, with the removal of the transit user fee, are they also planning to remove the charge from property tax? Because myself, I know it's hard to maintain your home. It gets more and more expensive, which really makes it hard for people to get into housing, and that's a big problem now. So I pay, for instance, about $300 a month transit fee on my property tax, and I personally don't use transit, but I understand that, we have to have it. But if you're going to remove it as a user fee, and the parties that are actively using it aren't paying for it, and then they don't remove the fee from my property tax and may increase my property tax, that only causes the property owner far more expense, makes it harder for people to get into housing, young people to get a new home, which is increase your monthly payments. So I'm just wondering what they're going to do about that charge on your property tax. Are they going to remove it? If not, it probably will end up in another increase in our property tax.
Philip, I appreciate the question.
Yeah, Phil, you're absolutely right. And if you do check out our platform, we address the property tax issue. We have a broken property tax system in Nova Scotia right now where homeowners like you, Phil, who put money into your home are then dinged on your property taxes. The market shoots up in value like it has over the last number of years. Everybody's paying more. And we have to tackle that. We need to review it with a goal of reducing the property tax burden on homeowners, as well as making tax incentives so that we can get more development right now. So we have suggested to also look at higher taxes for high-value vacant lots that aren't being developed, where speculators are sitting on them, waiting for their value to build over the years. And we want to adjust our tax system so that those folks are disincentivized to hang on to that vacant land by paying a higher tax point for those urban lots that are very valuable for development, and where those that own buildings or build buildings, including homeowners who are investing in their properties, have less property tax to pay. The free transit model that we have right now would not impact your property tax because it will be funded through the province. The province is not a real funding partner right now with our transit systems. We've got big public transit gaps across rural Nova Scotia, and obviously we have issues with Halifax Transit as well. So the funding we want to invest isn't just to take the fees off of public transit, which will save people who get out of their cars, over $5,000 a year just in gas and maintenance alone. And this is an affordability issue. But it'll also provide operational funding to expand our public transit system and support municipalities and community public transit groups that are funding this. So the funding we're putting in is actually going to help with the expansion too, and we've budgeted for a 20% expansion there. So that won't be going on to anybody's taxes. And the cost of that, according to our numbers, is actually less than the toll number two. So the other benefit of public transit is getting more people into public transit is going to help with the congestion issues. Experts have come out and said that if Tim Houston takes the tolls off the bridges, that's actually going to increase congestion by 10 or 20%. So we do think we have a much better option, and it's less money to do this than actually taking the tolls off.
What do you say to the taxpayer in Amherst or the taxpayer in Lunenburg or up in Cape Breton that taxes will go to fund people riding the bus in Halifax and in other towns?
It'll go to those communities too. So this is about doing this across the province. And what I've heard from people in rural Nova Scotia, from Yarmouth to Clare to Amherst and of course everywhere else, there is not sufficient public transit options. So we also have to invest in the smaller municipalities and the local community transport organizations that are usually not-for-profit to help them expand those services too, so that more people can actually get transit options outside of vehicles. This is important, again, for congestion in Halifax, but in rural Nova Scotia, it's also important to help with affordability, to help with reduction of emissions and taking some more pressure off of our roads, which we have a hard time keeping up with the maintenance on. And again, we can do this for less than what it costs to take the tolls off the bridges.
902-405-6000 is the number. We welcome Eric to the program. Eric, how are you?
Good afternoon, guys, and thanks for taking my call, Mr. Churchill. I'm a renter, and I get a supplement from the Nova Scotia Housing Authority, but I heard through the grapevine in 2028, I know it's a long ways away, they're going to eliminate that. Is there any truth to that rumor?
Well, Tim Houston's government has cut back the rent supplement program. We have the strongest set of policies to protect renters that have been issued so far. So, 1/3 of Nova Scotians are renters. Renters have experienced the highest increase to rent in the country here in Nova Scotia. Rents have gone up more here than anywhere else. So not only are we going to reverse the harsh Houston cuts to the rent supplement program, we are going to ensure that folks who are paying 30% of their income, who are low income, toward their housing, have access to this, which will open up the eligibility for the rent supplement program for a lot more people too. On top of that, we are going to end fixed term lease abuse because that is an issue for a lot of renters. And we will also bring in a rent bank when folks have a financial issue, are not able to pay their rent for a month. They can go to the government for a zero interest loan so that they can get the money to their landlords and stay in their houses and avoid conflict. We're also going to bring in smarter and fairer rent regulation as well. And right now, a lot of tenants or smaller landlords are paying high energy prices, and they are not eligible for any of the rebates for heat pumps or any things that can bring your heat bill down. So we're also going to make tenants and small landlords eligible for the efficiency program rebates, which they're not right now. So we're really trying to tackle the rental market in a way to make it more affordable, to better protect renters. And we think this is a really good program and the best one that's been presented so far.
I had a conversation yesterday on this show with the investment property associations, and they say that the rent cap that we have is responsible for the large increase in rents that we're seeing. They think that, and say that, rent controls don't work. Your thoughts on a rent cap and how long should it stay on?
Well, we have to be smarter with how we do it. Right now, it's arbitrary. So, the Premier or the Cabinet can pick a rent cap. It's not based on any economic factors or market factors. So we want to have smarter, fairer rent regulation that takes into consideration vacancy rates, market factors, property tax increases, and also we can sunset this once we hit a healthy vacancy rate of 3% or more, because then we know that competition in the rental market is going to stabilize and lower rent prices. So, I mean, this is a good option for now. While we have a housing crisis, we need it. While we have close to a 0% vacancy rate. But if we get in and Nova Scotia Liberal government is able to build more housing units, slow the population growth, and stop Tim Houston's reckless efforts to double the population, we will stabilize rental prices and have a healthier vacancy rate. And that will be useful for everybody. In the meantime, we do have to protect renters because they are vulnerable in these current conditions.
902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000. Let us go to Steve. Steve, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Your question, please.
Good. On the last news break, we heard a report about, I can't remember what the proper name of the group is, but let's call it the Fishermen's Alliance down Yarmouth Way, St. Mary's Bay. So obviously we've heard in the news for several years that there's been a significant issue with illegal fishery, illegal lobster, and now these guys are suing, private companies and individuals for the purchase of illegal lobster, and they're stating it's because of the fact that the provincial government and the federal government in partnership and their failure to action and address the illegal fishery. Mr. Churchill, I think you're from down that area. What's your view on this issue?
Thanks, Steve.
I agree with that. And people that aren't from West Nova aren't familiar with the commercial lobster fishery. It is our biggest export. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's critical to our economy and the wealth generation that we have here in Nova Scotia, and it is in jeopardy. And it is accurate to say that the Department of Fisheries and Oceans is not enforcing the laws on the water when it comes to this illegal fishery, which is happening during spawning season and spawning ground for these lobsters. And the provincial government is doing nothing to prevent the sale of illegal fishery. So the federal government regulates the water, the provincial government regulates the land. We've actually put forward a plan, I think, that can help deal with this by bringing in more provincial enforcement officers. There's only 2 in Western Nova Scotia right now. They're not going to be able to keep up with the situation. Having a zero tolerance policy for any commercial buyers who, again, are regulated by the province who buy illegal lobsters. They will lose their license. There's no fine, there's no just cost of doing business here. They're going to lose their license if they're caught with these tag lobsters. And we're going to build an office of commercial fisheries in the Provincial Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture, whose job it will be to advocate on behalf of our commercial fishers to the federal government, because there's too much at stake with this. It is one of our biggest economic drivers, and the situation is not only unstable, it's creating a lot of public safety risk, and it does need to be dealt with. And I would argue that both levels of government right now aren't doing their job, and we do have some ideas that can help with this.
Need to stop down and take another break. Thanks for the call, Steve. We'll be back right after these few messages.
X.
All right, just a few minutes left here with our conversation with Nova Scotia Liberal leader Zach Churchill. We'll try to get to as many calls as we can. We'll begin with Lewis. Hang on. Let's try that again. Lewis, are you there?
Yes, sir. How are you today?
Your question for Mr. Churchill, please.
I would like to know if Mr. Churchill would bring in a cap and trade deal with the federal government that was in place with the previous Liberal government of Stephen McNeil's. That will eliminate 18 cents on a liter of gasoline, which is costing Nova Scotians dearly. I personally, after working for 70 years, retired, but I'm now working part-time, but I had to cut out one day because I couldn't afford to drive the 70 kilometers back and forth to work because of the price of gas. The cap and trade deal would reduce the 18 cents a liter. I'd like to see if he's going to carry through on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. The commercials say that you love the carbon tax. Zach, do you?
Lewis, I love that question. And no, I don't. And Lewis, to answer your question very directly, yes, we would. We've been committed to that for the last 3 years since Tim Houston scrapped the cap and trade system without an alternative. And so we would bring an Atlantic cap and trade model in. And for folks that don't know what that means, it means the price of carbon would be taken off the pumps, to Lewis's point, saving between 10 and 18 cents a liter over time. And the money that would be collected from the larger polluters and emitters would be given back to Nova Scotians and Atlantic Canadians with efficiency programs to help bring down your power bills. So I do have an issue to your point, Dan. This election shouldn't have been called right now. Tim Houston set a fixed election date for next summer. The only reason he is calling this right now is not because Nova Scotians want it. It's because it's a power grab for him. And the premise of this election is totally false, to your point. There's ads going out now attacking, myself, that are dishonest. We are the only party that has a plan to actually end the current carbon tax in Nova Scotia, take the price off the pumps, while still doing our part to reduce emissions, protect the environment, and give money back to Nova Scotians and consumers to help bring their power bills down. So, Lewis, yes, we will. Again, everybody can check out our full platform. We're the only party that has one out now. It's at nsliberal.ca, and you will see our commitment to end the carbon tax and bring in a cap and trade model for Nova Scotians.
902-405-6000 is the number. Paul, welcome to the program.
Hello, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, sir? I haven't talked to you for a while.
Well, I'm here. Call anytime. My question for Mr. Churchill, he doesn't know, my name is Paul Polango. I write about the RCMP. We had the Nova Scotia massacres in 2020, and afterwards we had the Mass Casualty Commission in 2022. One of the recommendations of the Mass Casualty Commission is that the RCMP not be involved in contract policing anymore. The contract for Nova Scotia with the RCMP is up in 2032. Other provinces appear to be moving away from the contract policing model and are prepared to do that. BC and Alberta seem to be going that way. The federal government has indicated that it's not quite happy with the whole regime. What plans do you have to deal with the RCMP in 2032? And if you have no plans, why do you have no plans? Because no politician has said a thing about the RCMP in the last 4 years.
Great question, Paul. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the question too, Paul. I think certainly we have a blueprint with the Mass Casualty Commission that we need to follow. We've got an epidemic in Nova Scotia, particularly with intimate partner violence. This is something out of the Mass Casualty Commission that I think is the most important thing. If you talk to any RCMP officer or police officer, they will tell you the majority of their calls are with domestic violence. So we have to have a comprehensive strategy to deal with this, treat it as the epidemic that it is, protect more women and intimate partners and help them get away from these scary, violent situations. And housing is a big part of that, because right now a lot of women in particular are trapped in scary situations because there's nowhere else to go. So from the Mass Casualty Commission report, that is the thing, Paul, I've had the most focus on, and I think needs further action on. When it comes to contract policing, I think we follow the blueprint of the Mass Casualty Commission with the intention of implementing all the recommendations, and certainly have a better funding model for the RCMP, because I've also heard from our municipal units about the continuing strain on their finances with the current funding model. So we do have to be open to negotiating something better with the federal government.
Would you be open to municipalities moving back to municipal policing? It's a costly expenditure, but I know that there are some out there that are looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that's a better option right now. I'll be honest. I mean, if there is going to be an alternative, there has to be evidence that it's going to work, because we do have an enforcement issue in Nova Scotia. Even with the RCMP, dealing with the fishing question that came up, understaffed, having a hard time keeping up with the violence in Western Nova Scotia, with the kind of growing drug trade as well. And we are seeing crime rates increase right now in Nova Scotia too, and our enforcement agencies and prosecution authority not keeping up with that as well. So I do think we have to have a comprehensive look at that. I don't know what the alternative is right now, but certainly we do have to, at the very least, renegotiate the funding model with the federal government and our municipalities, because it's not sustainable.
Last question. We've only got about a minute and a half left. Will come from the email. It's from Lee. It says, would you, Zach, support removing the tax cap on homes assessed over $1 million. Wealthy homeowners shouldn't be subsidized by first-time homeowners who are already facing highly inflated home prices, and that is from Lee.
We are committed to reviewing our property tax system. Lee is right. We have a discriminatory property tax regime where new entries into the housing market who are buying their homes are subsidizing those that have had homes for longer. But we want to make sure that we're reducing the property tax rates for middle-income earners in particular. Because they have shot through the roof and people can't afford it. And these changes, along with the other tax changes we want to make, I'll remind people when it comes to taking the rest of the HST off of groceries, the income tax changes we want to do, cutting the HST, this has potential to save at least $3,000 for each household. And we believe once we get into the property tax reforms, we can save each household even more, because Nova Scotia has gone from being one of the most affordable places to live to one of the most expensive in 3 short years. Part of that's been Tim Houston's drive to double the population, impacting housing prices and everything. But part of it is also because we have some of the highest taxes here, and we have to change that because Nova Scotians can't afford for us not to at this point.
Nova Scotia, the 4th biggest coffee spending province in Canada, according to a new survey.
Oh, wow.
About $386 a year people spend on average on coffee. Are you a coffee drinker, and what's your go-to?
Oh my goodness, yes. I drink much. I drink coffee until my stomach hurts. So I get coffee at Tim Hortons. I get coffee at local coffee shops. Right. I buy my own coffee for home too when I get up. So I'm a big contributor to the coffee economy. But more importantly, I love going to these places because I get to talk to people and sit down with them and hang out, talk about the issues, and talk about the ideas that I like that I think can help. Everything from affordability to housing to doing a better job helping people get a family doctor again.
Zach, I appreciate you spending an hour with us today, and best of luck on the campaign.
Thank you very much.
That is the Nova Scotia Liberal leader, Zach Churchill. Thank you to all of our guests that joined the program today to share their knowledge. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you for dialing the numbers and joining the conversation. I know there's some that are disappointed, but these are busy segments, and we must do them again sometime. I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay out of trouble, and remember, be kind to one another.